Welcome to Pushing Up Lilies. I'm your host, Julie Mattson. Pushing Up Lilies is a weekly true crime podcast with spine-tingling, unusual, and terrifyingly true stories from my perspective as a forensic death investigator and a sexual assault nurse examiner. Do I have some stories for you? Are you ready?
Hey guys, what a crazy but awesome week this has been. I know that many of you saw that I was on a local news station, WFAA Channel 8, in the series Good Morning Texas that aired on Tuesday at around 9:30 in the morning. They have a segment called Poppin' Podcasts, and what they do is they take a local podcaster and talk a little bit about their background and how they got into podcasting. And so it was so much fun. I had a local newspaper that actually did an article on me, and I believe the radio station probably saw the newspaper article, and that prompted one of the producers to actually email me and ask me if I was interested in doing this Poppin' Podcast segment. Anyway, it was so much fun. Brittany was amazing. The interview was with Erin Hunter, who is the host of Good Morning Texas, and she was amazing too. It felt like I was just talking to a friend, so it was very comfortable, and she was very interested in my job and very interested in the podcast, and I was able to take T-shirts up to all of the camera crew and everyone that was there helping, which was kind of exciting, and I took a sample of the cereal box, and I kind of packed it full of stuff. The things I took aren't all the things that are going to be in the first box, but I wanted to kind of have it packed so people could see the concept of what the box is going to look like. Now, soon, if not already, you will be able to order that on my website. There should be a link, and you should be able to order the box and put the frequency. Again, this first box, there are only 30. I didn't want to jump in too deep at first because I wanted to make sure that there was interest, and I just wanted to kind of get some input from y'all, those that received the first one, to see if you think there's any changes or anything that I should make so that it can be the best it can be. It is exciting. I love the way the boxes turned out. I absolutely am obsessed with the items that are going to be in this first one, and y'all are going to be too. Try to get on the website, see if that link is available. If not, actually, I'm going to get on there as soon as I finish recording and see if it's available. If it's not, then I will reach out to Jody and see if I can get that link for y'all so that you can place an order, because I have had people private message me. I have a list of people already that want this, and with only 30, they're going to go like really super fast. So I just want you to be able to take advantage of that, especially if you love true crime like I do. So this week was kind of crazy. Today, I went on a decomp. He had been there for, I'm going to say, at least a month, and he had been sick. And it's always super sad when someone's family hasn't checked on them. And I have a lot of friends who live alone, and they'll tell you one of their biggest fears is dying at home alone and no one checking on them, and then them being a decomp. And I mean, they even know that exists because they've worked in the field before. I mean, it's a scary thought to think that you could lay there dead for a month before anyone finds you or misses you. But I'm sure he was very well loved, but we all get busy. You know, we forget to check on our friends, and I think that it's found more frequently when people work. He wasn't working, and so if he had missed work a couple of days and that was unusual for him, he would have been checked on sooner. But in this case, he was not employed. Subsequently, after not paying 2 months' rent in a row, was when he was found. At that point, his electricity had been turned off, so there was no power in the apartment. And y'all, I've been struggling with my camera at work. I'm not going to lie. I'm not very good with electronic equipment. I try, but I could not figure out for the life of me how to get my flash to work. This guy didn't have electricity, and so needless to say, it was super dark in his apartment, and I could not see diddly squat. Every once in a while when I'll submit my pictures to our doctors, I'll get a complaint about my photos being blurry. I hate to say it's not the end of the world. It is a very important part of the investigation. It wasn't a homicide or a suicide, or at least didn't appear to be either of those. I'm not the one that makes the ultimate decision, but it didn't appear to be either of those. But it's so blooming aggravating when you can't get your camera to work. Sometimes some of the local police departments have these really nice, elaborate cameras with flash, and it's just crazy. And then I've got this little kind of point and shoot thing. Anymore, cell phones take better pictures than some cameras, and I'm truly convinced that my work cell phone would take better pictures than the camera that I've been using. It's fairly new, but you can just tell it's not like super well made. And whenever you turn it off, it says bye-bye on the screen, which I think is a little bit weird. I don't know. That's just weird to me. But anyway, I just need to mess with it. And I'm not good at the settings. I'm not good at going into the menu. I don't know what a lot of that stuff means. So that being said, I've been doing my own forensic photography for a long time, and I still don't 100% understand the settings on these cameras. Don't think that you have to be perfect at everything. Some of us are better at some things than others. I can tear up a medical record, but I cannot figure out how to turn the flash on my camera. So there's that. Yesterday was pretty uneventful. However, I did have a scene first thing in the morning. I had a man in his 40s who was found deceased by his roommate and had no history of medical problems. That's one thing I thought it interesting to talk about, and I've probably mentioned this to y'all before, but sometimes I just look at clues around the room. There were no medications. He, according to family, had not seen a doctor in quite some time, really hasn't had any issues, but recently had been complaining of stomach pain. I don't really know how he described it. However, I did find Pepto-Bismol in his room, and family reported hearing him vomiting a couple of days in a row last week. So when I put two and two together in cases like that where I really have absolutely no information, a man in his 40s with no medical history, and I hear, well, he's taking Pepto and he's vomiting, I think cardiovascular disease. But then when I hear he's having stomach pain, there's so many other things that it could be. He could have had a ruptured gallbladder. I don't know. And again, that's the reason these cases come into the medical examiner's office. It can be a lot of different things. The weird thing is, when I got this call, they told me it came in as a possible choking, which I have absolutely no idea where that came from, nor did the dispatcher. And so we were trying to figure out where this all started, the whole choking thing. And the reality of it is, if one person gets the idea that it might be something and that gets passed on to another person, then it real quickly becomes a fact. And by the time it gets to me, it's like, oh, they choked, And so it's so important when I get my report from whoever gives it to me, whether it be a nurse at the hospital or a police officer at a residence, that they don't throw their guesses in there, because that just confuses things. We never know where that comment started, who made it, what validity it has. And we don't rule anything a choking really unless they have a food bolus removed from their throat while they're being intubated by EMS on the scene, or there's a food bolus removed during autopsy. Because there was no medical intervention on this gentleman, there would be absolutely no reason for anyone at the scene to even voice out loud the possibility of choking. little things like that. I don't know. I just like to tell y'all because things like that happen throughout my day. And sometimes it just gets kind of aggravating because it's like, don't guess. Every once in a while, I'll get a call from a nurse at a hospital. And I love my nurses because I am one, right? And I'll get a call from a nurse at a hospital and they'll say, I think he had his seatbelt on. I think he was driving a pickup truck. Well, think does not cut it. And I mean, I need to know. So I need like absolute facts. And if you don't know, just say I don't know because I will find out. I will hunt down someone who does know and then I'll get my information from them. But guessing is absolutely not an option in the forensic world, not when it comes to giving us report. Also, another thing that I've run up against is marital status is on the death certificate. So when I ask someone, is he married? And they say, I don't think so. That answer doesn't work either. I need to know. There has to be a family member nearby that can tell you, are they married? Have they been married? If they're single, that means that they've never been married. If they're divorced, that means they've been married and divorced. If they're married, they could have been divorced and remarried, but they're married. And then widowed, of course, just means that their spouse passed and they never remarried. So those things are on the death certificate, just like time of death. I will ask a police officer, what time did EMS pronounce? And they'll say, probably around 12:04. Okay, well, this is going on the death certificate, so we kind of need to know. It's just like I asked one time, because we do try to get a weight on people just to give our transport an idea, especially when they're on the third floor of an apartment complex, how heavy they are. It does help to know that. Sometimes it determines who they send based on their lifting capabilities. And so I'll ask the officer, how much do you think he weighs or how big is he? And they'll say, regular size. So I'm like, okay, what do you consider regular? Like, what is regular size? Like to the average person, to me, I don't know. I mean, I thought about it the other day. I was like, what is regular size for a man? I mean, I'm trying to really like put some thought in. I'm thinking, okay, to me, what I would consider a regular size man is, I'm going to say 6'1", about 150. That's a complete guess. I'm just throwing it out there. But that is kind of my view of a regular size man. But this police officer's idea of regular size might be the same size as his friends, which is regular to him. And they might all be 6'4", 300 pounds. The answer regular size really does not answer my question. So things like that, I don't know. It's kind of funny. I mean, I do enjoy it. It gives me the opportunity to giggle a little bit throughout the day because, and I know they're not trying to entertain me. They are being completely serious, and bless their hearts. I love them for it. It cracks me up. Just the guessing game is absolutely crazy. You know what? It's going to continue to happen. It's not really something that you can literally educate everybody on. Nobody really understands the importance of the facts when they're not an investigator. I feel like the details sometimes just seem like boring details to some people, and they don't understand the actual importance of time of death, marital status, those types of things that has to be reported to our office and are on the death certificate. Anyway, just a few little funnies and takeaways from the last couple of days of mine. Wanted to talk to y'all about a story of some relationship in Miami. Courtney Clenney was actually an OnlyFans model. She was arrested in August of 2022 in Hawaii for the April 2022 stabbing of her live-in boyfriend, Christian Obumseli. Now, when this happened, the two lived in a condo together in Miami, and then she ended up in Hawaii in August of the same year and was arrested. Apparently, Clenney and Obumseli's relationship was a tempestuous and combative relationship, and it began in November of 2020. So they'd been together for almost a couple of years. So Courtney was arrested, and the county ME said that in the autopsy report that Obumseli, who worked in cryptocurrency, which I still don't really understand what cryptocurrency and Bitcoins are. Maybe someone could explain that to me because I don't understand what those things are. He died from a forceful downward thrust from a blade that went 3 inches into his chest and pierced a major artery. So it was determined on autopsy that there was force behind this blade that caused it to implant 3 inches into his chest. Now, the arrest report said that Clenney acknowledged killing him. She said, yeah, I did kill him, but she said it was in self-defense. And she stated that he pushed her to the floor and she grabbed a knife and then she threw it at him from about 10 feet away. That doesn't sound anything like the downward thrust motion that the medical examiner determined caused his death. I mean, I don't know. She might throw a knife really, really super hard, but the ME said that the wound could not have been caused by a knife thrown from a distance. And they know these things. I think a lot of people think if they make up a story that the evidence is just going to automatically match the story. They don't really understand trajectory and force and things like that the medical examiner is going to look at to determine exactly what's taken place. So anyway, Clenney's attorney also stated that Obumseli was regularly abusive. That does not give you the right to murder someone. I have been around people who are abusive, and I did not murder them. We got to put that out there that if someone is abusive to you or bullies you, that doesn't give you the right to kill them. Anyway, Clenney and Obumseli lived in a penthouse at the Berkshire Riverview in South Austin, where a neighbor who lived below said that their fights got so bad that they spilled over into his apartment. If you've lived in an apartment complex, you've probably had a neighbor that's loud, and you've had a neighbor that fights, and you hear yelling, or they have a ton of kids, and all you hear is Hot Wheels going back and forth through their kitchen above your bedroom. I lived in an apartment one time where all I heard was footsteps constantly. It felt like there were a herd of elephants living above me. It drove me absolutely crazy. I was working on my bachelor's degree, and I was at home expecting it to be quiet in the middle of the day, trying to get my homework done, and literally it sounded like a herd of elephants. And so I went into the office trying to remain calm, but I had a deadline on my homework and literally could not concentrate. And I went to the office, and it turns out they went to check on this family that lived above me, and there were 10 children living there, 10, and they had no furniture. There was not a sofa. There was not a TV. There was not a coffee table. I don't know about the bedrooms because I didn't go in there, but they told me that there was literally no furniture in the living room. I have a feeling these 10 kids just played all day long in that living room area, which was right above my bedroom. And so when I was trying to study, no. So I can't really do apartment living anymore. I always like to live on the first floor just because it's easier to get in and out of, and, groceries and moving in general is easier. But I can't handle the noise above me, especially because I am working 3 jobs and I am in grad school. When I am home, I kind of need my peace because I have a project that really needs to be done, and it's just, I can't be interrupted. Anyway, the fights were apparently bad, and there was a painting at some point thrown into his balcony during a dispute between Clenney and Obumseli. The neighbor, Aiden Nesvisky, told Fox 7 that the police were called on the couple multiple times. But apparently, when they moved to Florida from Austin, the violence continued to the point that they were to be evicted. So her parents, Kim and Deborah Clenney, were accused of tampering with evidence in her murder case and allegedly hacking into Obumseli's laptop. The couple, as well as their daughter, were all charged with one count of unauthorized access of his computer, which is a third-degree felony in Florida. So at this time, they're in Miami. The arrest affidavits for Clenney's parents say that following his death, many of his belongings were taken from the couple's apartment and were not given to his family. And it was also confirmed that the attorney for Obumseli's estate said that his family never received his property from anyone, nor gave permission for anyone to remove anything of his from the apartment, including his laptop, much less access it. So investigators kind of believe that Clenney gave Obumseli's laptop to her parents at some point between the time she killed him and the time she got arrested. Now, a warrant was issued for iCloud accounts of Clenney and her parents due to photos, shared messages, and finances of the three. Now, investigators uncovered a group chat between Clenney's attorneys and her parents, which had messages in them about his laptop and how to access it, beginning the month after Clenney was arrested. One of the messages, Clenney's father said, "Hell yeah, that pen worked." So you can tell that the three of them were kind of working together to get into his laptop and took it, even though it belonged to his family. The attorneys later asked them not to go through the computer because they didn't want the parents to turn into a witness if they found something. Now, Deborah Clenney also allegedly transported the laptop to an attorney in the Dallas area, and the laptop was later turned over to an IT expert in Florida. Now, in July, Florida prosecutors dropped the computer hacking charges against Clenney and her parents. In June, though, a circuit judge ruled that the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office violated attorney-client privilege when they confiscated their text messages and emails. Clenney was an OnlyFans model who at one point boasted more than 2 million followers. She's been jailed since her August 22 arrest. She has pled not guilty. She went by the name Courtney Tailor on social media, including that was also her OnlyFans name was Courtney Tailor. Now, defense attorneys will be allowed to question the state's attorney about what content the prosecutor saw or didn't see that was confidential from the family's iCloud accounts. And Clenney was 26 when she was arrested for second-degree murder in connection with the death of Obumseli, who was 27. When she was arrested by the U.S. Marshal's office, she was living in a rehab facility where she's being treated for PTSD and substance abuse. She is still being held since 2022, and we're kind of in a waiting period. But they did drop the charges for computer hacking against her and her parents. This was kind of interesting. I mean, it was happenstance that she was an OnlyFans influencer or model or whatever it is. That's just a coincidence. But to say that, obviously they had a tumultuous relationship and had many arguments that many of their neighbors heard, and the police had been called multiple times. But for her to say that she threw the knife at him from 10 feet away, and the medical examiner is saying, no, it was obviously like thrusted into his chest because it went in 3 inches. I don't know. Again, I think that a lot of people will make up stories and they don't realize that the medical examiner and the police are accustomed to seeing these things. You can tell when someone's lying. I mean, you can absolutely tell when someone's lying. I'm anxious to see what happens with this case. I actually looked at her Instagram, and she has very provocative lingerie type pictures too. I can imagine some of their arguments may have been over that. I mean, I don't think my husband would like it if I dressed like that and put myself out on OnlyFans. I mean, unless I was making a ton of money, and then he'd probably be like, go for it. No, he would not. That's not true. Anyway, I'm really curious to see what comes of that story. So I'm telling you, we bought a mobile beer trailer. I think I told y'all. And we have been taking it to events on weekends and pouring beer. And I am tired. I used to have Sundays off, but I do not anymore. Every single Sunday, I'm pouring beer. I'm not really making any money. I told my husband, don't pay me because, he's just starting the business and I don't want to take all the profit. I want him to see a little bit of profit and kind of get things going. So anyway, it's fun. We've met so many cool people and we've handed out cards and hopefully gotten a lot of new jobs for him. But that business is called Taps and Tunes, and it's a mobile beer trailer with 10 taps. And we do weddings. We can do any kind of event, really. Birthday parties, bachelorette parties, neighborhood get-togethers, open houses, corporate events, just absolutely all kinds of things. We've been trying to get into some fairs and flea markets, but it's really difficult to do. A lot of places kind of corner the market on that. And if they're held in places where there's a bar nearby, they don't want to dip into the bar's profit. And so they don't allow any mobile trailers. So if anybody hears of any events, specifically in the Dallas area, where they might need a beer trailer, please reach out and let me know. Again, that is Taps and Tunes, and we're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and our website is www.tapsandtunesmobilebeer.com. Again, just to let y'all know, my med spa, the filling station, is not out of semaglutide. We are not out of tirzepatide. We are still going strong with our weight loss program and getting a lot of new clients who haven't been able to get their medications anywhere else. Again, we do provide out-of-state mailing. We are able to remotely send you a link so that you can do the required assessments with a nurse practitioner online from the comfort of your own home, and then we can mail you your medications. I do have a handful of Pushing Up Lilies listeners who reached out to me and are on my weight loss plan from other states. So if that's something that you're interested in, the filling station at USA.com is a good way to reach me and send us an email, and then we can coordinate that for you and give you some information on it. The weather here has been beautiful. It's been so nice, but windy. I don't know if it's windy where y'all are at, but oh, Lord, the wind is about blowing us away. And I cannot have a good hair day to save my life. This wind has been crazy, but I'm just ready for it to not be so bad. But I can't complain. I like this so much better than the cold or the really, really hot. I think it was in the 90s on Sunday when we were at our event, but it was super windy. And the poor girl in a booth, a couple of booths down, her papers kept blowing. I was like, just give it up. Go put them in the truck. They're going to be so messed up. By the end of the day, nobody's going to want them. It's not going to look professional handing them to people. But anyway, if you can log into Good Morning Texas, you should be able to click on the link for my interview. It aired today, which is Tuesday, 4:15, and so you should be able to actually watch the recording. Again, you can see a sample of the cereal box, and then you can also just listen to the interview. It's kind of fun. I hope that y'all have an amazing week, and I look forward to talking to you next week. See you later. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Pushing Up Lilies. If you like this podcast and would like to share with others, please do me a quick favor and leave a review on Apple Podcast. This helps to make the podcast more visible to the public. Thanks again for spending your time with me, and be sure to visit me at pushinguplilies.com for merchandise and past episodes.